Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of The Everyday Educator. We are so excited that you're here with us today. And this time, we're going to be talking all about our homeschool routines. We know that getting in a rhythm, especially at the beginning of the school year, can be tricky. And so we've got some moms in every stage of the homeschooling journey who are excited to share their thoughts and what is going on in their lives right now as it regards to homeschool routines. If you have found us and you're not a part of classical conversations in a community, we would really encourage you to go and find a community, because this is a great place for you to be encouraged. But the best place for you to get the encouragement that you need is actually shoulder to shoulder in a community with other homeschooling families. So go to classicalconversations.com and find a community near you. Well, ladies, welcome to the show. Today, I've got Emily Phillip and Lisa Bailey. Emily, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
If you guys don't know Emily from the Blessings in Motherhood episode that we did with her a couple of months ago, definitely go and listen to it. We will link it in the show notes for you. She is fantastic. Wealth of knowledge. But just in case they don't go listen to it, would you introduce yourself to our listeners? Just give us a snapshot of your family and your life.
Yes, and actually we recorded that like almost a year ago, so I get to like update all the numbers. Okay, so my numbers are, this will be my 11th year of CC, my 9th year directing, and I've been doing Foundations Essentials that whole time. Love it. And so I have 4 kiddos. The oldest is going into Challenge 2, boy. Okay, so I've got 3 boys and a girl. Oldest is going into Challenge 2, Challenge A, second year of Essentials. So he's Foundations and Essentials. And then my daughter has 1 more year of only Foundations. So that's 15, 12, 10, and 8. And it's super, super fun. And my husband works from home. So our house is just our base of everything, life, everything. Yeah, our walls are dinged up. They look nasty, but we're like, some other season of life will spiff it up.
That's right. You are where you're supposed to be.
We live in this house hard.
That's right. That's right. And in every room, probably.
That's right. Our schoolroom is now our dining room, which is an update from a year ago. We moved into the dining room. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that too. Lisa, where did you guys homeschool when you were raising your girls? Was it a separate room?
Oh, no. Well, we lived in a very small house when we had very small children. And so we did not have any extra rooms. My husband, Emily, also worked from home. He's a pastor. And so the only extra room that we had was Daddy's office, because he did need a place to go where he could shut the door and be in the quiet. And so we had an eat-in kitchen. We did not have a separate dining room. And so we schooled at the table, and there was a shelf along the wall, but each girl had a bin of school supplies, and Mama had a shelf of curriculum. And we had on the back of the kitchen cabinets, we had our big whiteboard, and on the wall, we had our big map, and we were up close and personal with all of our schoolwork all the time. And it was great. It was fine.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are in your situation. Yeah. I think that is super, super common.
Yeah.
We were blessed right at the beginning of our homeschool journey, we moved in the area. And so we were able to say, we want a house that can have a homeschool room, that has an extra room for homeschool. And it was before all the real estate went crazy. So we could actually afford that. So we're super, super blessed.
We were blessed after the girls were, I guess Stephanie was in Challenge 1 and Sarah was in Challenge A when we moved to the house where we live now. And it was a huge blessing. We had an upstairs and a downstairs, and the downstairs has this big room that we converted half of to a big, long station. It was a big counter that we built with leftover materials, but it was a counter, and they each had a computer station and a desk station and flanking bookcases. And that was really suitable for challenge. And then we had a table off to the side where when you have to sit with mom and and do the check-in, or when you and mom are doing chemistry, or you and mom are doing advanced math, there was a space for that. So we were blessed. So I know what it is to be in both of those situations, and they were both glorious. So
Yeah, it's definitely fun to explore, since I was homeschooled through high school. I
Yeah.
have the reference of only what I've experienced. So it's a
Yes.
totally different thing when you're like, okay, now it's my turn. What am I going to do? Like all the
Right.
different things that I've seen us do in
Right.
our different houses growing up. What are we going to do? Right now, we're mostly at the table, but I do find myself like defaulting to what I'm used to, which I think is a good way for us to get into this routine conversation today, because there is a way that your life works naturally. Like I'm a bucket person, for example. So we've got right behind me, I could touch it. There's the school bin where this is the stuff I use daily. Then there's the thing I don't want to forget that lives on the table. This is my kitchen table. And then what I'm used to is actually bookshelves in a separate room. So all the rest of my school supplies is not even in the room where we do school. So I'm just
Yes.
finding myself trying to reconcile these two things, like what's natural in me and what I was taught and which one works better. And today, like I said, we're going to talk about routine. So I would love to know so that everyone knows who is speaking to them. Are you guys routines people? Would you call yourself a routine person, Emily?
Yes. Very much so. Anyone who knows me would be like, yes, she is. I am all about some routines.
Love
Yes.
it. What about you, Lisa?
Oh, yes. People would laugh, if people were listening to this now, they were like, oh, yeah. I mean, I have a plan. I have a planner and I have a plan and I like a list. I'm the list woman. I have a book of lists. And so, yeah, I have always it is comforting to me. Okay. So it's not so much that I demand that everything be in a routine. That is comforting to me. Like I know what to expect. And especially the more plates you have to spin, the more you have to know which plate is ready to be touched at which time.
Bingo.
And so that
Yes.
it just sort of routine helps me not drop a plate. Not as often anyway.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And as a person who maybe this is a pride thing, like I never wanted to be described as a type A, even though people constantly describe me as type A. As a person who doesn't subscribe to that thinking, I do often find myself falling into those things because I don't know another effective way to keep the plate
Right.
spinning. I'm a full-time stay-at-home working mom. What is that?
Right.
That's the only way that you can do it. But even when I was younger and, either trying to organize my schoolwork or in college, working through college, there's never been a time in my life where I didn't need the structure to survive. So if you are a person who doesn't need that structure to survive, we commend you. And this might not be your message.
Well, you know what,
But
Delise? The truth is that everybody has a rhythm.
exactly.
Everybody might not have a schedule, but everybody has a rhythm.
Yeah.
The deeper you have a conversation with somebody, the more you hear, well, we don't really have a schedule, but we do. And then they start telling you the thing. It doesn't have a time attached to it, but it's almost always the same order or the same general time of the day or the same people are doing the same kinds of things. And so, yeah, I think that rhythm is better than schedule for describing most of what we all do.
And I
Yeah.
do think people can grow in it, especially just to survive certain seasons of life. Not
Yes.
survive. I shouldn't say survive. To thrive in
Yeah.
certain seasons of life. I think that everyone can grow in it. And actually, it's funny because I am so routine oriented that my learning and stretching is where I can ease up and be less regimented. So we all have things to learn.
What, Emily, you said, okay, so what kind of routines or schedules, if you want to say it, help your family the most? Because I have some personal thoughts about what people in general need, but what kind of routines help your family?
Well, I guess I can start off by saying, so I've got 4 kids, the youngest of which is 8, and they're all very sporty.
Okay.
So we do a lot of sports. So I would say during the school year, our evenings are almost all full. They're either full of sports or church activities, or we all do Trail Life and American Heritage Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Love those programs.
Mm-hmm.
So between all of those things, we are literally out of the house almost every evening of the week. So my routines and our schedules and our rhythms have to do with accomplishing school so that we can be out of the house in the evening and
Right.
not feeling like we didn't get things done that we needed to get done. So I have always had routines, even from when they were babies. Like when we get up, we get dressed.
Right.
Just really
Right.
simple things like that.
Yeah.
We go ahead and brush our teeth before we come downstairs, even though we haven't eaten yet. We're just going to go ahead and get it done. And a lot of the scheduling and the things that go on in my brain and routines that I put in place for my family are to ease my own brain, because my own brain feels so full, especially with also directing, which is such a wonderful, I love directing, and I love, sacrificing my time and energy for my community because I love my community and I love this curriculum and I want it for my kids. So I'm super motivated to help make sure our community is healthy, but that takes a lot of my time. So I've got that going on in my head. I've got all the sports going on in my head. I've got all the school going on in my head, and I'm trying to be a good wife, and now I've started like baking my own bread and doing weird stuff like that. And so I have all this stuff swirling around in my head. And so just so that we can thrive and not feel like we're drowning, I have to put routines in place. I don't know if I've gotten around to answering your question exactly, but I don't know how nitty gritty you want to get to at this moment.
Definitely. Well, what I'm hearing you say is that most of your routines are either triggered by one action. So it's like a domino effect, or it's triggered by the goal of finishing school in time for X, which for me, I really resonate with that, because I was thinking, how do I describe it? Our days are extremely structured because I do work full time. And so that's been a gift to me. There was a time I said, Lord, why does everything have to be on a calendar? He said, you need this. Okay.
Trust me, you'll find out. You're going to find out.
You need this. Even if you didn't want this, you need everything to be structured in your life. And if, my son is very routine. So that's the other reason why things ended up in that season of my life. He needed his nap time to be at a very specific time. Right. And I thought that I could just do whatever I wanted. Well, he's not that kid. Yeah. So some kids are. But all that to say, for us, it's attached to flags in my day is what I call them. Yeah. So I have these markers that initiate a different rhythm, but those flags are kind of like pillars that keep the day structured. Yes. And most of them around either food or rest,
Yeah. So, especially when you have a little one, because those are the two driving forces for a preschooler.
Exactly. So it's either what happens before breakfast, have we done all the before breakfast things? What happens after, and before lunch, and then what happens before dinner and bed, But Lisa, I'm also curious to hear from you, because I'm sure your rhythms have changed over the years, but do you see a pattern in what helped you when it comes to structure?
Well, I am like you guys in that when my girls were little, I discovered that routine was our friend, because most children thrive in a routine, because even before they can verbalize, they can normalize what a routine is. And so they know what to expect of their day and their surroundings. And I think it helps them have some control and some security. Everything, this may look different, but I know that when I get up, this is what I do. And I know that this is when we usually eat. And I know that this is when we rest. And I know that this is the time when I will leave mama alone and play by myself, and we'll all be happier, Right. Yep. And so that was great. And we homeschooled kind of like you, Delise. There were flags. So like, okay, if it is getting to be 8:30, then we need to be moving on toward our family devotion, or we won't get finished, So it wasn't a hard and fast. I wasn't just looking at the clock saying, okay, now it's time to put this away. But there was a rhythm and a flow when they were little. But then I think as your children get older, especially as they move toward and into challenge, that you have to, you really do want to be working yourself out of a job. You really don't. My kids, when they were really little, they said, "Are you going to homeschool college us?" And I'm like, no, that would be no. Thank you for wanting that. There will come a time, I promise you, that you will not desire that, and we'll both be on the same page. And of course, they didn't when they got to high school. But I wanted them to have a sense of how to set their own rhythm and their
Yes.
own schedule, because I wasn't going to college with them and I wanted them to know how to do it. And so we began to give them more autonomy, not enough to hang themselves with, but enough to get tangled up and need to be rescued. And then that was my goal. That was my cue to step in and say, okay, so how did it go off the rails? Where was the last time you felt like you had a handle on this? And how did it get screwed up? And how can we fix it? How can I be your partner? How can we fix it? And so what do you think would help you next time? And then as they got older and more verbal, I also discovered that my two girls, this is God's sense of humor. If you have two children, they won't be alike. And so they had very different rhythms of work. I had one that would wake up early and she liked to get it all done and be done. And then one, especially as she approached the challenge years, that she liked to get up later and she did not mind if she had to work into the evening. And so while that was not my personality was, let's get her done, because my husband's a pastor. I almost always had minister responsibilities in the evening. And I really didn't want anybody to still be doing schoolwork, because then I felt like I was still doing school. But I had to just kind of turn loose of that and say, okay, let's see how it goes. It was always that way. Let's see how it goes. As long as you don't get really annoyed that your sister is done and you are not, then I'm okay with it. Because we quickly got to a point where we started making a sort of schedule for them, because then it became, if we made the schedule together, I could say, like one of them could say, can I be done for the day? Because, you do have days when you just want to be done. But when you're in challenge, there are things that need to be finished in order for you to be a good community member. And so I could say, what does your schedule say? And she knew that she had helped to make the schedule and she knew what it took. And so she would say, well, my schedule says I need to finish this part of the nature journal today. And I said, well, then I guess you're not finished. But that put some of the responsibility there. So I was not the mean mama. It was the schedule that we made together. So
that's big. Hey everyone, we want to interrupt this show to tell you more about this semester's sponsor, Judson College. Judson College is an amazing fit for a CC student because they really do focus in on our three uniques: classical, Christian, and community. Listen to their mission statement. They say, equipping students to give their lives for the cause of Christ in the church, among the nations, and in every aspect of society. Let me tell you a little bit about what they mean when they say every aspect of society. I know sometimes we think of a Christian college and we think, okay, you're just teaching me to go into vocational ministry. Well, guess what? We spoke with a representative from Judson College, and he shared with us that it's more than just official ministry. They believe that every believer is equipped and needs to be equipped for ministry wherever their feet land. So whether that means the marketplace or someone's church. Judson College has a wide variety of degrees for students to choose from, including 25 majors, as well as 5 years bachelor's to master's programs. And each of these programs are taught by exceptional faculty who are experts in their field and passionate about investing in the lives of their students. They want their students to leave equipped theologically and professionally for whatever career God wants them to pursue. To find out more about what Judson College has to offer, visit judsoncollege.com/distinctive. And again, thank you to Judson College for sponsoring this semester of the Everyday Educator. Let's get back to the show. Emily, I'm guessing you're probably right in the middle of what Lisa's describing because you have kids straddling those ages. What does that look like for you right now to help them have some autonomy and
Yes.
routine.
Well, it's interesting, Lisa, what you were describing, like letting them work into the evening, if that's, but what I was thinking in my own head was I could only do that if, first of all, if we didn't have evening activities. And
Right.
second of all, I think what I would do just for my own brain is I would say, you need to make sure that you have accomplished the things that you might need me for before
Yes.
3 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. And
Yep.
then after that, you are more than welcome to
On
work
your
until
own.
10 o'clock. I do not care.
Right.
But you can't need me. I am going to be done being teacher mom at 3 o'clock. That
Right.
would be what I know I would need for my
Yes.
own brain.
That's really smart. And even into the challenge years, we continued to have a weekly meet-in where I had to see the schedule, because
Yes.
what I discovered as early challenge people, they were like way ambitious, and they would make these things as like, well, we have 35 pages of Latin in it, and we have 7 days, so we can do 5 pages a day. And I'm like, okay, so you're not going to work on 7 days, because I know, and we're not doing school on Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And B, some of those 5 pages are nothing but a picture and some text and no exercises. So every page of Latin is not created equal.
Right.
So let's first of all just not plan to fail. So yes, we had to get to the point where we had to be realistic about the schedule. And I loved that. And I had dancer and soccer girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so they knew, okay, don't tell me that you're going to work from 8 to 10 if you have dance from 7:30 to 9:30, because that's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah, let's all be real.
Totally. So my challenge, and actually it's funny. I think that I don't know that funny is the right word. I do think something happens in the challenge years where a lot of times moms are like, I've made it. Yes, you're off. And we forget that we really do need to continue to check in really all the way, because we're still responsible. Like, okay, I can't take credit for this. Charity Minor, who is on Instagram at A Note for the Future, has always said you need to inspect what you expect. And that goes all the way through challenge 4. So really, there is no point at which we should be never checking in with them. So one of the ways that I check in with my, he's about to be challenge 2 student is on day 1. So I would say, for challenge day 5 would be your community day. So on day 1, he has already written his plan. We learned to he writes his plan for the week before day 1. He writes it the evening before so that we're ready to roll. That was a game changer last year when somebody recommended that. So I check over his plan.
Day.
Oh my goodness, especially for those
half a day for the dawdlers.
And our day 1 is Monday, so like getting back going for the week, and you got to make your plan. Yes. So I check over the plan. We go through the email from the director together. A lot of directors email; they don't all, but we go through it. We make sure like everything's on there. And then he rolls for the week.
Right.
And then ideally, I check back over his work the night before he goes to class, or like the afternoon. And there have been many times where I'm like, where's this thing? And he'll be like, ugh. So really, like, even though they've got it written down, even though they made the plan, things fall through the cracks. And that is why we need to be there to be checking. And also to say, like, does the paper he wrote meet my expectations? Like,
right.
Or did he just check the box this week? Yep. So we need to make sure we're continuing to inspect what we expect. Thank you, Charity Minor, for that wonderful phrase. But I also want to take this opportunity to just encourage challenge mamas I'm going to reiterate or add to what Lisa is saying. It really is a life skill to learn how to make a schedule. And these challenge years are and the challenge workload is such a great opportunity for the kids to learn that. So I know there's lots of great plans out there for like, it'll break down all of the challenge A work for you and tells you exactly what to do every day. I encourage people not to use those.
Yeah, I know.
Unless like maybe you've got a weird year, like, or maybe there's sickness or something like that and you need it. That's great. But as a general rule for the average student, I would say, please don't use those, because you want to teach your kids how to look at their own schedule, consider their own personality, the things they love and don't love. Like one lesson that my son learned in Challenge A, he would save his least favorite things to the end of the day.
Oh, no, you got to do that at the first.
He's cranky all day.
Right, because he knows it's coming.
It was hanging over his head. So when we finally figured that out, I was like, dude, You need to do
Let's
the
just
stuff you hate first.
get her done. Get her
it over with.
done.
Not that he hates any bit of challenge. He loves it. But
No, of course, because
there's
he's a
going to be
paragon.
parts that you love and parts you don't love as much. So that was a huge revelation. And then also, like you were saying, like sometimes they might put just an inappropriate amount of stuff. I don't know, but they get better at that. And so they get better at it and figuring out like what works for them. How fast are they? How slow are they? What are they slower on because they don't like it as much, or faster on because they really like it? And they learn to make their schedule. It's beautiful.
It is really beautiful. But you know what? Sometimes they really don't do a good job of it. And sometimes they intentionally don't do a good job of it. And sometimes they really just missed the mark. Like, I had no idea it would take me X number of hours to do this. And so it is such a great, it's such a great opportunity to model grace and say to them, you know what? Yeah, bud, that is really hard. I can see that you never had an assignment quite like that before. And I sort of wondered if you were going to get it, but I decided to let you try. But here, I feel your pain. I know you feel bad. I can tell you feel bad about it. And I know you don't want to go into class. Let me help you. Let's do a plan B. What can we do? What's the end around? And then help them over. I mean, they fell in the ditch. Here's the good thing. They fell in the ditch while you are still in the neighborhood. So you can rescue them.
Exactly.
It's not like they fell in the ditch at college or when they're half a country away in a job. Teach them how to fall in the ditch. Show them the grace to right the car. But then sometime the next week, have a deeper conversation. Okay, so what did we learn from that? All right. So how are we going to know to turn the wheel before we land in the ditch again? And when do you need to ask for help? And that's okay. They're just teenagers.
My life is a perfect example of what you guys are describing, because I've never known anything else but homeschooling, right? So what you're describing is my story, and a huge reason why I felt like it was so worthwhile. And it's funny when you see it from when you look retrospectively on your life, right? You see it through your adult eyes, but that was it. And there were multiple times through our journey. And I know this is very common, which is the other reason I'm saying it, where I would say to my mom, what if I went to school? You know, because I'm the third of 4 children.
Right.
What if I went to school? What would that look like? And you know how we landed on the fact that that didn't make sense for me? Because of the schedule. Because my mom would say, okay, show me how that would make sense for you, little girl who does
what it would
theater and is the worship leader at church and works and homeschools and has her co-op day and et cetera. She would say, sure, just show me. And I would go through my schedule and conclude that I didn't want as much time caught up in a classroom when I knew that when I get my biology done is at 10 p.m., but when I get my math done is at 8 a.m. with my mom. And I just had my schedule set up in such a way that I could thrive in life. But I never would have known that about myself had I not been given the autonomy and trained how to create a schedule. So I just wanted to put that out there in case people were like, oh, is this too hard for kids? It is difficult. However, it might help you with some really challenging parenting things if they know what it takes for them to live a life that they love. And I loved it. And therefore, I want to give my children what I was given. But I don't think I would have been able to draw that conclusion had I not worked through the scheduling part as well as the scholastic part. So I just want to put
really
that out
smart. There. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And when you asked me the question, you said, you know, how did your rhythm change? And it is different. I mean, with younger children, like pre-challenged kids, you probably are setting the schedule for them because you do a lot of them. And here's the deal. People might think that everything in life revolves around children, but it shouldn't. And so there are other responsibilities that mamas and daddies have. And so when they're young, their schooling needs to follow not that you don't take their personal rhythms into account. And if they really can't wake up at 8:00, then maybe you guys start school at 9:30, and that's fine. But it does change, you know, the schedules that we make for little kids may become the rhythms that our older children follow. So it is different for littles, middles, and olders.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add to the discussion about the olders that, as they're learning to make their own schedule, it's a good opportunity to let some natural consequences happen.
Yes, it
To
needs
let
to
them
bite
feel it.
sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Like sometimes they might need to miss their sports for that evening or their whatever if they made a poor choice. You don't have to beat them over the head with it. You just let it happen. And maybe when dust is settled, you can say, well, how can we prevent this from happening again?
Right. Yeah, that was sad. And I know you hated to miss it. I appreciate that, you took responsibility for the work of being a good community member and you got your stuff done. But let's not let it happen again. What could we do?
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
really smart, Emily.
I love it.
Very good.
Well, I know this show is called The Everyday Educator, and we really do believe that learning is a lifestyle. It's not just something that we say. So sometimes I find that people they find it challenging to wrap their minds around what is school, what is a part of our routine, and what is not. So I thought maybe we could expand this conversation even beyond getting the academics done into things like chores or, Bible study, just all of the things that happen in your day, because of course it's all centered around God. So what did you guys do for chores, or what are you doing right now for chores? Do you consider that to be a part of your official homeschooling, Emily?
I mean, it's a part of our life is chores. And the thing about scheduling and routines is they do change so much. I know we've already established that. That's why we're all in different stages here on this same podcast to kind of demonstrate that. But it really does change so much. And so chores is one of those things that I'm constantly kind of reevaluating, like, how can I make this work? It worked for a while and it doesn't work anymore. But one thing that has worked for years for us is we have Saturday chores. And that's when all the kids, and it's age appropriate, and we've shuffled the different chores around some over the years, but they do the big chores, like the vacuuming of the house, the cleaning of the bathrooms, the Windexing of the windows, the washing the floors, those things. They all have their things. And they have to accomplish all of that before they have their weekend screen time. So we limit screen time to the weekends. And so my kids are highly motivated by screen time. So they do their chores. But they also, this is something that surprises some people. My kids have done their own laundry since they were 5. My daughter has been doing it since she was about 3. So we do have front loading machines, but I tell you, I think even if our front loader craps out and we get a top loader, I would just get a step stool and a grabber.
Yeah, that's what I wondered if you did. Yeah.
It has worked beautifully, but they take care of their own laundry. So they each have a day that they do their laundry. And that's a chore every week that they do. And also I don't care how they fold. They need to get into the drawers.
It needs to get somewhere.
They can stuff them in. I do not care. We don't separate colors. I know some people that are like, their minds are blowing right now, but not just everything in one load.
That's right.
We don't buy clothes that are so fussy that we need to pull them out. Because of this, I want my kids to be able to do their own laundry.
Right.
And they wash them and then they stuff them back in their drawers. They get 24 hours to complete that cycle. And it is wonderful.
Will you break that down? For the younger girls in the room, I have an idea of what you could have done. This is one of my goals for Leo next year. He's 3. He'll be 4 in the fall.
Yes.
How did you train it? That's what I want to know. How did you?
Because that's earlier than I did it. So let me hear.
So everybody has their own laundry basket in their own rooms. That's one thing. They're collecting their own laundry all week. And having it also be like the same day of the week means that I know you only need 8 pairs of undies, like one for each day of the week and week. One extra because you're going to do it every week. And so it really helps me know how many pairs of clothes they need also. But so on that day of the week, sometime in the morning, I used to have to remind them, but they pretty much all remember at this point. So how do you train them? You said I would walk in there with them with their laundry basket, help them shove it in, show them how. So for a lot of years, I would have to do the soap. They'd be like, Mom, soap, because they couldn't manage the giant jug. They can all do that now. So they put the soap in, they start. So, I had cut out little arrows and taped them to the thing. So I'd be like, these are the buttons that you push And if there would have been a specific order, I would have numbered them. There's not a specific order on mine. So I had, the stickers. They know all that now, but I had forgotten because they're gone. All those, they're gone. The stickers are gone.
Oh.
But yeah, stickers to know how to do it. And then they would move it. Moving is the easiest thing. And starting the dryer is super easy. The harder part was folding.
Yes.
Because my daughter used to want to fold, but it would exhaust her. It was so much work for a 3-year-old. I have some adorable pictures of her folding her clothes, and she's got these beautiful little piles, but she peters out after 30 minutes. Who wouldn't peter out folding clothes for 30 minutes? So then I just started teaching her kind of quicker folding methods or just stuffing. And it's so funny. My third born is excellent at folding clothes, but he just doesn't want to take the time. He's actually like meticulous if he's slow, but he is my shover, man. He barely gets the stuff in the right drawer. I don't care.
You let him decide what's important to him. If it's important enough to them, they'll figure it out and they'll spend the time. Otherwise, you can't make them care. So just let that go. Yeah.
That's so good.
I love it.
Were chores part of your homeschool day? Like, is this...
Yes, everybody had certain things that they had to do every morning. We had a dog, and so somebody's always feeding the dog. Somebody is always clearing the breakfast dishes and loading the dishwasher. We are make your bed every day people, and so they were expected to make their bed, and the floor has to be, things have to be put away every night. So we all did that. But in the morning, don't leave your clothes. Do not leave your clothes. If it took you 4 tries to find the outfit you wanted, the other 3 better be put away. And so then they would come down and they did their own laundry from about double digits. When they hit double digits, they had to do their own. And for me, it was because they started getting picky about, I don't want this to be washed with this. And I said, well, then you need to be in charge because I'm out because I'm not going to be that picky. I'm going to do mine and daddy's and you do yours. And so they did have chores that they had to do every day. And we did the Saturday chore thing too. So your big chores, clean the bathroom, vacuum and mop, help daddy in the yard because he didn't have a boy. So we all helped with the yard work. But I will tell you this, when I can remember when my oldest graduated from high school, Lee was doing a podcast and she said, I want you to come on and tell me all the things that you were happy that you did and all the things that you regretted. And what I told her then, I said, I regret that I did not make a bigger deal out of learning how to do some of the big chores. Like, I don't think my oldest really learned how to iron. Now, lots of people now are thinking, oh yeah, I don't iron. But there's some situations where you need to be able to iron something. So, and there were big cooking. There's certain big things that she didn't know how to cook. And so I look back and think, I wish I had spent more intentional time on home maintenance and on big chores. Now, I did at one point when my younger daughter was about 11. I was traveling some for CC, and my husband, he loves to eat, but he could also take it or leave it. He loves everything that I cook, and he's always very appreciative. But, I mean, his mom was not a big cook, and so he was just like, a sandwich or soup, that's fine. My older daughter would rather do almost anything than eat. It's not that she doesn't like food. It's that she likes a lot of other things more. So when I was gone, I would call home and my younger daughter would say, they don't feed me. And I'm like, honey, this can't be the truth. And so she would say, I go and say to daddy, what are we having? And he says, I don't know. What do you want? And so I would ask Stephanie, what do you want? And she never knows. And so I'm like, okay, so I know daddy's not starving you, but I do believe that daddy doesn't care and that sister doesn't care. And so I said, I'm going to teach you. I was never gone from home more than 3 days in a row. So I taught her to cook 3 things. And I said, look, when you're getting hungry, You go and fix it. And when it's ready, you tell them and they will come. They won't like it. They will. They don't have to fix it. They don't have to decide. They just come. And so
My favorite thing too.
right. And so something good, plenty of it, hot and on time. That's what I used to hear lots. And so I did teach my younger daughter to cook earlier. And it was self-preservation for her. And so that is one of the ways that we did chores. I think chores are important. I think it's important for kids to know that. I think it's important for them to know how to take care of themselves. But I also think it's important for them to know that they have a responsibility to the family. And that's part of loving your family well, is serving them by doing something on behalf of the family.
Yeah.
Hey, parents, are you interested in your challenge student earning college credit while they are doing the work of the Classical Conversations Challenge program? The Concurrent Enrollment Program might be just what your family is looking for. You do challenge coursework and earn college credit. It's a flexible opportunity from an accredited Christian university that honors our homeschool families and the program parameters of the Challenge Guide. Your student can remain in community while earning college credit for the work they're already doing, which means community and mentoring stay in place while they continue to practice the skills of learning through college. The students are assessed by assessors with rubrics, classically minded standards for study and assessment. There's some flexibility in number of credits or courses, and there's the potential for earning an associate's degree during your students' challenge years. Meet with a dedicated CC Plus advisor and personalize this program for your student. Want to know more? Go to classicalconversationsplus.com/concurrent-enrollment-program. Let me say that one more time so you'll be sure to end up in the right place to get your information. classicalconversations+.com/concurrent-enrollment-program.
And it's such an integral part of, honestly, not to make this sound too dramatic, but just to be honest with you guys, it's such an integral part of what it is like to be human, and human in the way that God intended. Like when you go all the way back to Genesis, he gives you dominion over things. That's like the first meeting that he has with them is, hey, I want you to name this stuff. I want you to care for this stuff. And it's been fascinating just for me to watch my son and the way that he responds when he knows how to do something, even if it is, especially if it's a very difficult thing that most people would consider a chore, it gives him this sense of ownership, and he's so proud. And the other day, I wanted him to clean up his toys, and I realized, okay, you really got to frame this well. I mean, sometimes it's just do what I say. That's fine. But I told him to clean up, and that's one of his chores, is that he clears the floor because we're not having tripping hazards. And I'm pregnant, so right now a lot of it is like, hey, remember, we're practicing.
I can't see that.
Your brother's here. Can't be anything on this floor. And he was just giving me a little bit of resistance over it. And finally, I remembered our mantra, which is don't give up. And so I started saying from the other room, because I got my own chores to do, I started saying, don't give up. I believe in you. And it flipped the switch in his mind. And suddenly it was this thing to achieve rather than this thing that my mom wants me to do. And he was so proud. But I guess I want to highlight that to say that the mindset behind why we have our children doing things, or why we do things, is so powerful. If it's just, oh, well, we have to XYZ, you're not gonna nurture a person within yourself or outside of yourself and your children who really takes that ownership and wants to continue that trait or whatever that thing is on. But if they have a good reason behind it, even if it is as simple as, hey, I want the satisfaction of a job well done, that is so much more motivating. And it just spoke volumes to me. I said, okay, I'm going to watch the way I talk. That was so easy. It took no energy from me.
Smart.
But it got the job done. In 5 seconds, we were done and we were moving on.
Yeah.
And I had been working on that for 10 minutes,
Wow, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
That's really smart. You learn
Yeah.
to frame things. You learn your children and their mindsets and how to frame things in such a way that you are setting them up for success. My grandson is 3, and he actually likes to know a plan. Like most little kids melt down at transition. So for homeschoolers, it's always the transition times where things go off the rails. You're having a great day, but now we need to move from math into reading and things hit the skids. And so if you say, okay, Gideon, this is the plan. We are going to play with these blocks, and then we're going to have a juice break, and then we're going to clean up the blocks, and then Lolly's going to read you a story, and then you're going to have to go home. Then that gives him all these things, and he doesn't whine about it's time to go home. I don't want to go home. What was the plan? Okay, so if he'll say, or I want my juice now, but what is the plan? And so he'll go back to that. And that's what I was saying earlier about the comfort and having some control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when it comes to school time, having like a written, visible schedule of some sort or plan or checklist or whatever works for your kid that they can see visually, here's where we are, here's what still needs to happen. And that's another place to give kids lots of independence and move them towards that. And also, Delise, what you were talking about was just reminding me of wanting to give our kids every opportunity to learn independence. And Lisa, you were talking about wanting them to learn how to cook. One thing I think that those of us who are really scheduled and regimented have more trouble with is inviting people to see what we're doing so I can show you how, because we're so like, I just need to get it done. I just need to get it done. Hurry up, I need to get it done. Don't, you're going to slow me down. So as much as we, and other people are super great at that. My dad is incredible at being like, hey, I'm doing this. Come watch. Let me show you how I'm doing this.
Yes.
He is so amazing at that. I love that. So we all have different strengths and weaknesses, but those of us who don't have that as a strength, we need to work harder at slowing down and looking for places where we can invite them in to just see what we're doing. And how amazing if our kid asks or gives an opening, like your daughter, like you were like, I need to teach you how to cook 3 meals. And my daughter came to me one day and said, I want to learn how to make cookies by myself. And I was like, that sounds fabulous, because then I don't have to do it. Yeah. So I wrote up a recipe for her that had extra notes in there so that she could follow it verbatim, because it was like her first recipe to ever follow. And it's fabulous. She makes the cookies for the family now. It's fantastic.
That's so awesome.
I know.
That's really awesome. Yeah.
So just looking for ways where they can be independent, giving them more independence.
And slowing yourself down enough.
Yes.
I will say, this is really funny because this is just the stage of life I'm in. I'm going to own it. I was not real good at that as a young mama, because what you said, Emily, I just need to get her done. We have like 15 things in a day that probably could really only have handled 12. And so I'm just moving and I don't want to step on you. Okay. As a grandmother. So
it's
I'm
better.
speaking.
That's exciting.
I want to speak truth. I want to speak life to you. As a grandmother, I have nothing. I know now that probably 9 of those 15 things, none of us remember now. And it was the 6. It's a couple of those 6 that if I had slowed down would have made the memory that my children hold on to. And with my grandchildren, I'm now slowing down. And so I'm like, the last time they were here, I was making cookies, and Gideon said, I want to help. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to go well because he's going to want to touch all the ingredients and it's going to be everywhere. But you know what? I thought, but then I would get to spend more time with you
Yeah.
because you would be standing up on the stool. And so we talked about what what's called this, that's a tablespoon, that's a teaspoon, that's a spatula. And some of the names are funny. And so we bonded over that. And then he was super proud of the cookies that he made.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to look back one day and I won't care that on, June the 10th, I had a really clean kitchen floor. But I will remember that when Gideon was 3, he helped me make cookies and he was proud.
Aw.
So let me
sweet.
just encourage you. Slow down. It'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And what a great thought as we are wrapping up this show to really bring to the forefront of our minds, because we both want to be people of rhythm and structure, responsible. I think is really where this is coming from in our
Yes.
hearts.
Yes,
We want to be
ma'am.
good stewards of our time, and being a good steward of your time also looks like choosing to
The
slow
better
down,
thing.
Mhm.
preemptively deciding to have
Yeah.
margin in your day. Like, we
Yes.
haven't even touched on
Yes.
that yet, but that's an undercurrent in a lot of the things you heard us
Yeah.
say. Just
Right.
like, don't pack it so tight that if you drop
Right.
one thing, the whole thing goes kapow. Like,
Right.
you gotta know how to do that, and that is a holy thing. That is something that the Lord has modeled for us. He always
Yes.
had margin. Like, I just finished reading Mark, and I love looking at the way Jesus managed his time, because it's like he both gets up early, but then he has space to turn around and say, "Hang on, who touched me?" And he's headed somewhere. It says he has a plan. He has to go here. He's got to do that. There's structure. The prayer times at the tabernacle were at a specific time. They're on time. They're making it. So it's not as though everything's just so loosey goosey. However, I know he's the God of the universe. We also call ourselves Christians, and we're modeling our lives after him. And I think he can teach us to do that. I believe that he can
Yes.
teach us to do that. So
Yes.
I love that there's room for both a plan and the flexibility. Ladies, as we close this conversation down, I have a feeling that there could be a mom listening who is feeling very overwhelmed. And she knows she's drowning, and she knows she needs to, take the whole thing down to the studs. And she's hoping to do that, but she doesn't know where to start. What would you say to a mom who needs just a little pep talk, because she's got to do tomorrow and she's going to do tomorrow? But what would you say to that mom, Emily?
I would tell her that it's going to be okay. Every season is different, and some seasons feel really crazy, even to those of us who appear to be scheduled and regimented. And I think I like to encourage people who say that maybe being scheduled or routine oriented is not natural for them. I encourage them to kind of look at their days and figure out what are your priorities, and how do you need to adjust things to make sure that those things happen. And then you can let the other things kind of fill in the spaces. So that being a starting point, and you're not going to go from feeling like a hot mess to super routine. There's got to be some slow baby steps. So maybe it's even getting yourself out of bed first before the kids wake up. I don't know how many moms I've heard say, I hate it when the kids wake me up because I already feel
Oh,
10 steps behind.
right. Right.
So, it may be as small as getting up 30 minutes before your kids get up so that you feel like you have a head start on the day. So doing one little step at a time, I think, to move towards some sort of routine for your normal days. We all have weird days, but for your normal days.
That's great. What would you add to that, Lisa?
I would just remind all of us that we actually do have time in every day to do everything that the Lord calls us to do. So on the days when I am just foaming at the mouth because I don't have time to do all of these things, I frequently have to remind myself, so what is it that I'm doing that was not the Lord's plan for me? Because if 10 things are too many, he must not have wanted me to do all 10 of those things. And I would also remind young mamas, be gentle with yourselves and realize the same thing is true for you that you preach is true for your children. Anything that's worth doing well, you're going to do badly first. You're not going to be great at managing the rhythm every day right out of the gate. Like Emily was saying, give yourself time and permission to grow into that and to let your children grow into that, and to realize that the most important thing that they want is your time and your attention. It's not a perfect house or a perfect schedule or every checkbox filled in. They want to be with you. And why did you begin to homeschool anyway? It was to be with your children. So,
That's so good. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. I can't even tell you how many times I heard my mother say that, and it's so true. In a world full of, quote, experts, we need to be reminded of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed just listening to us chat about the reality of trying to frame our lives, and that it encouraged you, that you got some wind in your sails this week. If this show did encourage you, we would love for you to give us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, and also to share the show with a friend. Everyone is navigating this conversation of scheduling and rhythms. And so send this to a couple of mamas who you know could use a little pep talk. And make sure to go and find us over on YouTube. We do videos now, and we are on the Classical Conversations YouTube channel. So we would love to hear from you over there, connect with you, hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments something that you do schedule-wise that has really changed the game for your family. We'd love to encourage one another, and keep spurring each other on. And we will see you again back on the show next week. Thanks for listening.